Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Rage Against the Regime at Blog Talk Radio. To call in, dial 929-477-3565. That's 929-477-3565. I was born in the land of the free, in the home of the brave. I'll bleed American blood until the end of my days. The red, white, and blue, these colors never fade. Rage against the regime.
Welcome to Rage Against the Regime with KC Massey. I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to me tonight. Tonight what we're going to be talking about is the government's setup and the lies and contradictions in their case against me. Thankfully, with a great group of people that I have that are working to help me pore over all the legal documents and to dig through every detail. You know, my lawyer, Louis Cerolo. I've got Gary Hunt. I've got several people that are helping me in the background to go through and dig all the truth out and to expose all the lies, and that's what I intend to do tonight. One of the first things I wanted to do to some people, and a lot of people still ask me this question, I wanted to read the law so that everybody understands, and we'll talk about the law. The law that they've charged me with is 18 U.S.C. 922 G1. And what that law states is, G says, it shall be unlawful for any person. 1 says, who has been convicted in any court of a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year. And just so everybody understands, that includes misdemeanors, too. It's not necessarily a, quote, felon in possession. It's anybody who's been convicted of a crime that has a punishment or a sentence exceeding 1 year. 2, ship or transport in interstate or foreign commerce, or possess in or affecting commerce any firearm or ammunition, or to receive any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. So let me break this down a little bit to help you understand. This law is under the U.S. Commerce Clause, which the federal government was granted that power in the Constitution to regulate commerce between the states and the nations. And the main reason for them having the commerce powers is because the port states and the border states, if we chose to, without the regulation and oversight of the federal government, we could hinder or harm the landlocked states and inhibit their ability to ship and receive goods and services, because if it's coming from another country, it has to come through one of the port states, being from the East Coast all the way down Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, and then you've got the border, which is Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California on the south side, and then you've got the northern border states, and then you've got California and Washington, which are port states on the west coast. But then you've got the states like Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, all the states in the middle that don't have access to a seaport or to a foreign border. They're pretty much landlocked. So to make sure that those states were treated equally and fairly, the United States government, through the Constitution, was granted the power to regulate commerce. Commerce is defined as the moving of goods or services on a large scale. So it's not talking about, you sending your buddy something through the mail. They're talking about commerce, the moving of goods and services. So let's revisit what the law says. The law says to ship or transport in interstate or foreign commerce. That's if you being convicted of a crime with the punishment exceeding 1 year were to ship or transport a firearm through interstate or foreign commerce without using a federal firearms dealer, that is a violation of the Commerce Act, because commerce is the shipping between the interstate and the foreign nations. The second part is, or possess in or affecting commerce. Well, to possess in commerce, you would have to be like a truck driver, maybe a pilot, a railroad engineer, somebody who's moving goods and services in commerce. Possess in or affecting. Affecting commerce, the term affecting in Black's Law and in the United States Code means to burden or obstruct any firearm or ammunition. And the last part is, or to receive any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. Well, the key word there in the last phrase is has. Has is a third-party present. Has means that you were directly involved. And where that came from, if everybody remembers, Oswald killed Kennedy. Well, he received his firearm directly through the mail. He did not get it through a federal firearms dealer. He ordered it, and it was sent to him via the U.S. mail. So that is what they're talking about, to ship or receive a firearm which has been shipped or transported. But what the federal government is asserting is that the word has is had. Had would mean that at any point, at any time, that firearm had been transported through interstate commerce. Well, here's the deal. Texas just so happens to be a state that doesn't manufacture too many firearms. So the likelihood, if you have a firearm in Texas, that it was made in Texas is not very high. Most of the firearms that we have came from other states. And as such, you know, they're trying to say that they have authority over that just simply because it came from another state. Well, that's not true and that's not correct. Let me explain how interstate commerce works. Interstate commerce is the commerce between the states. So let's use the analogy of a walkway, a walk bridge that goes over a roadway. One side of the bridge is, we'll use the city of Mesquite, one side of the bridge. On the other side of the bridge, when you come down, you're in Dallas. So when you're on the Mesquite side, you're under Mesquite laws, Mesquite city ordinances, and Mesquite, they're both state of Texas laws, but we're going to use the Mesquite ordinances. Once you get up on that bridge, that would be the state laws, because you're not in Mesquite and you're not in Dallas, but you're in the state. So you'd be under state law. Once you come back down the other side of the bridge into Dallas, now you are under Dallas jurisdiction because you are in the city of Dallas. Interstate commerce works the same way, and the way we can frame that is that same walkway that starts in Texas and ends in Mexico. When you get on the bridge in Texas, you're under Texas jurisdiction. But once you step up on the bridge, now you're on international jurisdiction, because it's not Texas and it's not Mexico. It's international. It's between the states or the countries. When you go back down the other side of the bridge and you step off, you're now in Mexico. So Mexican laws and rules apply. Excuse me. So here, interstate commerce is the commerce between the states. So once, in the case of a federal firearms, once the firearm is shipped from the firearm dealer in the other state, while it's in commerce between the states, the federal government does have power and authority and regulation over the shipping of that firearm. Then it goes to the firearms dealer in the state that you're in or from. At that point, they are required by federal law to run a federal background check to sell you a firearm. Once they sell a resident of the state that firearm, they are no longer under federal rules or obligations, because now it falls under state jurisdiction, because that gun was legally imported, brought into the state, and legally sold into the state. So then, according to the 10th Amendment, all powers not given to the government through the Constitution shall remain with the state and the people. And nowhere in the Constitution does it give the federal government authority or power to regulate firearms. So that belongs to the state. So once that firearm has been brought into the state and sold legally in the state, it is under the jurisdiction of the state. Well, that's where the federal government's trying to argue and say that, no, they have authority over that firearm forever and ever because it had been shipped through commerce. Well, okay, the law says has, and there's a huge difference grammatically from has and had. Had would mean at any time. Has would only mean if you were directly involved. So it's a manipulation of the English language. But if you go back to 1934, when they originally wrote this firearms law, it was directed toward the mobsters and gangsters of the 30s. They were moving contraband across state lines, and they were known to do so armed. They were robbing commercial shipments of semis and trucks and goods back then. But back then in 1934, Congress acknowledged and realized that, hey, look, we cannot, because the Second Amendment says we cannot take somebody's right to bear arms. But here's what we can do. If they're a criminal, then what we'll do is we'll put a tax on it. Because that way we're not saying you can't have the gun. We're just saying if you're a criminal, it's going to cost you an extra. The tax amount at that time was $200, which is the equivalent of over $2,000 now. So it was a big deal. It was a lot of money. But you could still legally have the gun if you paid the tax. Well, in 1968, after Kennedy was assassinated, they changed it from Title 14, taxation, to Title 18, criminal. And then due to the fact of, like Oswald, who had received his firearm through the mail, through commerce, without going through a federal firearms dealer. So that's where the issue came in, and that's where they put the has in there, because he had directly received it through commerce, and that's what they wanted to prevent. Also, Congress had talked about in there where on the regulation of the firearms that the issue was, James, I brought you on, that the issue, they were worried that in modern times, in the 60s and up until the Firearms Owner Protection Act, that the criminal gangs, which are known to be in multiple states and could affect commerce because of the criminal activity and the narco traffickers. So that's why they kept this law in, was to go after people who were engaged in some form of commerce or some ability to affect commerce. Well, the problem with me is I was never, ever engaged in any form or act of commerce. I don't have the ability to affect commerce, and I did not receive any firearm directly through commerce. So I'm not technically, by the letter of the law or spirit of the law, guilty in any way of the crime that they charged me with. So I was just trying to give people a little understanding about what the law was and how the law was written and a little background on it. And like I said, if any of you guys want to, James, you're getting a lot of feedback, background noise. But if any of you guys want to, you can go back and research the 1934 congressional hearings when they first started this. And then the next time that they brought it up was the National Firearms Act of 1968. And you can read the congressional records there, and you can determine what the intent of this law was and the whole purpose of why they wrote the law. The federal government now is trying to use this law to go after anybody that they can to try to strip them of their right to bear arms for self-protection. If you were engaged in a criminal activity, it's fully well and understood why they would try to come after you. Narco trafficking or gang activity, I understand, because you would have the ability to affect commerce or be engaged in commerce. Drugs are not made in Texas. They're made in different countries and in different states. So, therefore, that is part of commerce, the moving of goods and services on a large scale. Moving drugs, moving dope is big business. But I'm one of the few that they've started trying to use this law on, just based solely and totally on the premise that because the firearm was not made in Texas or not made in the state of that person, that they can come after you and use federal law to try to strip you of your freedoms and your rights. And I'm here to stand up and say that, no, I'm not going to stand for that. That's not what the law says. That's not the letter of the law. That's not the intent of the law. And I'm not going to stand by and just let you tell me that I'm guilty. I do have the ability to read, and I do have the ability to comprehend, and I will not lay down and just let you run roughshod over me. So here we are today. Then,
and it falls back into the same thing.
Yeah,
just like with a driver's license, everybody's laboring under the same misconception with a driver's license, and that's the same way that they're trying to manipulate this law. With what your perception is of what the law actually means is completely different than what it actually is.
And let me give you another clarification, too. I haven't brought this up, but the term felon, they've brainwashed us for the last 40, 50 years as to what the term felon is and means. But if you go back and look at the original definitions of felon, especially from Black's Third back, felon was defined as somebody who was under indictment or under conviction of a crime. Once you served your time, you were no longer termed a felon. You had all your rights restored automatically. This wasn't until the 30s, because of the organized crime, that they started manipulating the term felon, what it meant and what it represented, to the point now where they are saying that if you have ever been convicted of a felony, you're forever a felon. Well, then my retort is, then what's the point of having to serve a sentence for that? I mean, you may as well give everybody life, because if it's the sentence is going to affect me for life, then why didn't you sentence me to life in prison? The sentence is supposed to satisfy the sin. And if it doesn't, then that's the judge's problem or the court's problem, because they didn't properly address the issue and the crime that was involved. I don't understand how America has gone so sideways to think that, you can mess up in your life and then you're forever held to that standard. And especially like in my case, it was over 27 years ago when I was convicted. I haven't been in any trouble since then. I haven't received any charges or any indictments or anything of any sort. All I've received in that time period is accolades, rewards, recognition for my philanthropic deeds of working and doing charitable goods for less fortunate people, poor people, elderly people. So how people can still try to say that I'm a, quote, felon when I haven't been in trouble and I satisfied my sentence in 1993. So, we need to really stop and evaluate what a felon is. We need to go back and understand the real definition of it and quit thinking that once somebody commits a crime that they're forever ruined, because if that's the case, then we need to just start executing everybody that's been convicted of a felony. If you get convicted, we just need to execute you. Because if you don't have a chance to redeem yourself, if you don't have a chance to make amends for your mistake, if you don't have the opportunity to live your sentence down and change your life and live a better life, then we just need to execute everybody. What's the point? Why are we filling up prisons with all these people? Oh, there we go. It's the industrial prison complex that the government and the state make so much money on by incarcerating our citizens, by keeping us under their thumb and under their control. And we as citizens don't see it, and we think that, oh, they're just bad people. Well, it's gotten to the point now just about every family in America has a felon in their family. And if you've ever heard of the book, there's a book called 3 Felonies a Day. And I have friends that were federal agents that told me, and cops too, that have told me that they have a game that they play, and that's they pick a random person and they follow them for a day or investigate them for a day, and they try to come up with 3 felonies they could put on any person at any given day. So all you people that think that you're above and, oh, no, I'm not a felon, they've never wanted to come after you and make you a felon, because I assure you, they can charge you with whatever they want to, and then it's your job to prove you didn't do it. And it's just like this case with me. By the letter of the law and the intent of the law, I'm not guilty in any way, but yet I'm still charged, yet I'm still under house arrest, yet I'm still having to be persecuted by my own government for standing up on the border and chasing illegals back across the border, and for proving to America that the government was lying to us by telling us that the border was secure, and by telling us that we did not have the power of arrest, and by telling us that we did not have the necessary training to be effective at keeping illegals out of this country. We proved without a shadow of a doubt that the government was lying. We proved that the border was not secure. We proved that we have the power of arrest. You can go to YouTube and watch our videos. We proved that we didn't need their training to repel the foreign invaders. All we needed was common sense. And all of that is documented and on YouTube to prove what we're saying, because the government is lying. Well, when I started making it available to the public and putting these videos out, and I admonished the Border Patrol for trying to assert authority on us, which they do not have, that was the beginning to this whole horrible nightmare that I've been living through. And that video is also on YouTube. It's labeled BP JAMA. And you will see where I stood up to the Border Patrol, and they admitted on tape that they don't have authority over us, yet they insisted on trying to push that authority over me no matter how many times I rebutted it, and while admitting that they didn't have the authority. They are bullying us just like these crooked, corrupt cops are bullying us. And until we stand up and make a difference, make our voices heard, let them understand we the people run this country, not them. We are the rightful masters of our lives, not them. They are to answer to us, not us answer to them. And that's what's got our country so flipped around and upside down.
That's why you have a Bible that can't be allowed in school now, but they'll have children making prayer rugs, Islamic prayer rugs in schools. That's how come that you can't pray in school right now. A school up here in North Texas, they had to stop, the principal had to stop his morning announcements and including a Bible verse in the morning announcement because they didn't like it. You know, but it's all different whenever they're doing the Pledge of Allegiance at One Nation Under Allah. You've all seen that on Facebook, on the news, and that the schools up north that are the children are being indoctrinated this way. This is a load of crud, folks. How much more are you going to sit and take?
It's a shame, man. And you know, there's some people that are waking up, James, but how quick are they going to wake up before everything is destroyed? Are we hoping that we can get them to do that? Are we hoping that people will understand what's going on? Because I'm kind of losing hope that people have that intelligence.
You know, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. The only reason that there is still a United States of America today is because we are in God's hand. You can say, oh, you're a Bible thumper, this, that, and the other thing. I got news, folks. This country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. And that's what it was meant to be held together with. And the only reason that we are not something else right now is because God has us in his hands. But if we don't turn away from what these people are pushing down our throats and stuff, how much longer, how much more are people going to put up with before they finally get up and say, you know what, I've had enough of this. You know, you're not going to bring Islam into my school. You're not going to bring Islam into my nation. You're not going to bring a religion into this country whose main function is to either convert you or kill you. If you're a Christian, they're going to kill you. They're already doing it where they have sway. You know, are you going to stand by and allow that to happen here? I'm not. Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to raise my voice against it for one thing. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. They've got an imam going, and he wants to recite a Muslim prayer of jihad in every state in our union. That's it. That's his little. That's what he wants to go do. He wants to call everybody to jihad in every state in the United States, and he's in a bid right now to do that. And you know what? It's a free country. You can say anything you want to, but when what you're preaching is preaching the death of Christianity and preaching the death of Christians and calling people to kill Christians, I'd say it's pretty much time for you to get the hell out.
I fully agree. Well, I was going to go over my paperwork here real quick so I could point out some of the lies that the federal government started out with when they first came after me. This first paper that I'm going to be reading from can also be found on my Facebook, free KC Massey. It's www.facebook.com/free KC Massey. And on there I have copies of my criminal complaint, my annotated criminal complaint, my arrest warrant, and my subsequent search warrant, and then the indictment and stuff signed against me. On attachment A in the criminal complaint, Agent Martuno, who is a lying scumbag, he's a batfag special agent, and he's a despot. He's worse than a piece of garbage. He's a liar, and he does nothing but try to destroy people's lives for no reason.
This guy is going around bearing false witness against people on documents. Dude, when this guy signs his name to a document, you're gone. And he signed the documents for KC with nothing but hearsay and bullshit, knowing that he was telling a lie.
And here's how he starts out on attachment A. I am Special Agent of the United States Department of Justice, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, BATFAG. I have been a federal law enforcement agent for 12 years. So for 12 years, this shitbag has been screwing people around, I'm sure, because he's a derelict and he's an idiot. And Martuno, I hope you're listening, because I want you to understand you're a shitbag. His first statement is, number one, my duties include the investigations of federal firearms laws. First off, the federal government does not have authority to regulate firearms. Go look at the Constitution. They have a right to regulate commerce, not firearms. But this is what this retard puts in here. My duties include the investigation of federal firearms laws. I know it to be unlawful for any person who has been convicted of a felony to receive or possess a firearm which, remember that key word, has traveled in interstate or foreign commerce. Has, like I explained earlier, is a third party present, which means that I would have had to been directly involved in that commerce of that weapon. If the word would have been had, that would mean what they're asserting at any point in time. So let's go on to number two, which is another lie. On August 29, 2014, the United States Border Patrol agent from the Fort Brown Border Patrol Station, while in performance of their official duties, encountered an armed individual identified as John Frederick Forrester in the brush. During this encounter, Forrester turned and pointed a firearm at a United States Border Patrol agent, who in turn fired several shots at Forrester. Forrester is a member of Rusty's Rangers, an armed citizen militia group patrolling the border of the United States and Mexico. Well, let's back this up. First off, Fortuno, you lying sack of shit, there is no affidavit stated anywhere in the record or on file that says that John Forrester ever pointed a firearm at anybody. As a matter of fact, as a matter of court record, that was determined to be untrue. He never pointed a firearm at anyone. Cantu testified in court under oath that John Forrester never pointed a firearm at anyone. Second, the officer or agent that discharged his firearm at John Forrester immediately invoked the Fifth Amendment and did not even file a report because he knew he committed a felony, and he was told by Border Patrol agent Reyes to dummy up and don't say anything. His union rep told him, a federal agent who just committed a felony by firing at a private citizen unprovoked, told him to not make a statement and to not say anything. So there was only two people that saw what happened at that shooting. That was the Border Patrol agent that is reported to be a man named Gonzalez, but I remember the name to be Hernandez. But for right now, we'll leave that part alone. But he did not make a statement. There is no affidavit anywhere that says that John Forrester pointed a gun at anyone. But yet this retard, Rotuno, stated under oath on number 2 that John Frederick Forrester pointed a gun at a Border Patrol agent. And in turn, that agent fired shots at Forrester. A bold, blatant lie that has already been testified to in court that is a lie. Number 3, Border Patrol agent confiscated the Zastava pistol from Forrester. 2 other members of the militia group, Edward Varner and Kevin Massey, were located in the immediate vicinity of the shooting. Both of these individuals were armed as well. Okay, so right there by that statement, it shows that I was not involved in it. It says I was in the immediate area. And what is the relevance to us being armed? We'll get into that more later, too. While conducting the post-shooting interview, 5 firearms were taken into custody by the Cameron County Sheriff's investigator, Sergeant Padilla. The firearms were described as, and it gives a description. Well, here's another problem. In testimony, under oath, in front of the Honorable Judge Hannon, BP Agent Cantu testified he took the weapons. He took them under the guise of officer safety. And we'll get more into that here in a little bit, too. And then he says that he turned those weapons over to the Cameron County Sheriff. And the Cameron County Deputy Sheriff said that a Lieutenant Diaz was the one who ordered those weapons. So here we have another conflict. Here we got Batfag Rotuno saying that Sheriff's investigator Padilla was the one that confiscated the weapons, when in fact it was Sergeant Valerio who, under the instruction of Lieutenant Diaz, ordered those weapons to be confiscated. So here's another contradiction and another out-and-out lie that this scumbag Rotuno used in a criminal complaint against me. It says FBI Special Agent Karen Chastain and Cameron County Office Investigator Padilla interviewed Forrester. During the interview, Forrester admitted to possessing the Zastava pistol. Number 6, during the interview of Massey, FBI Agent David Cordova and HSI Homeland Security Special Agent Jeremy Bourgeau, Massey admitted to both the ownership of the Zastava and to lending the firearm to Forrester, which is another blatant lie. They said that I admitted to the ownership of those weapons. The weapon wasn't mine. I never said it was mine. I said that I had loaned it to him out of the armory of Camp Lone Star. Anybody that was there understood and knew that when you came to Camp Lone Star, we had an armory where we checked weapons in. And there were several people that brought extra weapons that were not their full-time carry. And for the people that were there that did not personally own a weapon, they were loaned, checked out a firearm while on patrol, because we were going against the cartel. We were going against people that were known to be extremely dangerous and armed. So anybody with any common sense would not go out against the cartel unarmed. So that's why we had the weapons, and that's why people carried them, was strictly for self-defense and self-protection. We never used a weapon or fired a weapon or used a weapon in a threatening or intimidating manner toward any illegal. Here it says, your affiant, which is scumbag Ratuno, spoke with Supervisory Border Patrol Agent Danny Cantu, who testified in court, and there's another line, SOB, but we'll get to him. Cantu was in the area of the shooting when the shots were first fired and responded immediately to the scene. Border Patrol Agent Cantu stated that he in fact recovered the Zastava pistol from Forrester, and that he escorted Massey, Forrester, and Varner to the staging area for interviews, witnessing Massey carrying a holstered Springfield XDS 45 caliber pistol and a Centurion Model 39 Sportster 7.62x39 rifle, which was slung around Massey's neck. Well, here's the funny part of that. In sworn testimony by BP Agent Cantu, he said he never saw me with a pistol, and I'm telling you and everybody listening, I never, ever, ever have wore a holster. I do not like holsters. I've never wore one. I don't like them, and I've never used one. So in court, in testimony, BP Agent Cantu testified that he never saw me with a pistol. And according to his testimony, the only time that he saw me with a pistol, which is a blatant lie, was after we got to the staging area. He said that I exited the mule and I had a pistol on me. He didn't see it, but when he asked me if I had any other weapons, that I revealed it and handed it to him. So he never saw it, but yet here this scumbag, Ratuno, in a sworn affidavit, is saying that Cantu saw me with a holstered 45, which is blatantly, patently false. I never used a holster, and Cantu, by his own testimony, never saw me with a pistol at the scene of the shooting. So, but yet this shitbag lies about it. Okay, and then it goes on to say court documents show a conviction for Forrester, and then it goes on to say court documents show a conviction for me. And then number 11 states, ATF Nexus expert Eduardo Ramirez was consulted as to the interstate nexus status of the Zastava, the Springfield XDS, the Centurion 39, and based on his preliminary examination of these firearms, determined that the firearms were manufactured outside of the state of Texas and therefore traveled in interstate or foreign commerce prior to being possessed by Massey in Brownsville, Texas. Okay, well, that's not against the law. What's against the law is to ship or receive or to have in possession a firearm which has been transferred through interstate commerce. Has, again, meaning I would have been directly involved. The law did not say had, which would indicate that at any point that if the weapon didn't come from Texas, then it would be covered under this law, which is also a violation of the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause. Then in the arrest warrant, which was issued because of the foregoing document that I read, the criminal complaint, they filed for a search warrant. And under the search warrant, they said the same thing again. They used the same regurgitated lies from the criminal complaint in the affidavit for search warrant. And here's some things that I found that were pretty hilarious in the search warrant. It says, now this is coming from some educated federal jackass that thinks he's Mr. Know-It-All Cop. The ATF National Academy teaches that most federal circuit courts of appeals have held that it is reasonable to believe that persons normally store their firearm in their home. You had to go to the National Firearms Academy to learn that? Most people store the firearm in their home because it's for self-protection. Duh. But it took you to go to the National Firearms Academy to figure that out, huh? Number 2, that persons who possess firearms usually possess other items related to firearms, such as gun cases, ammunition magazines, holsters, spare parts, cleaning equipment, photographs of firearms, and receipts for the purchases of those items. Really? Again, you had to go to the National Firearms Academy to learn that? I mean, isn't it not common that anybody who has a gun would normally have a gun case or ammunition or a holster or cleaning equipment? I mean, really? I mean, you had to go to the Firearms Academy, the ATF National Academy to learn that.
That's where they have to send the liberals to give them training on how to handle a firearm or who might have a firearm, because they don't know anything about them. They don't want to know anything about them, and they've got to be taught. Give me a break.
Here's another one. Here's another one I thought was funny. That it is common for individuals who possess firearms and ammunition after being convicted of a felony to secrete such firearms and ammunition in secure locations within their residence, motor vehicles, and other real property over which they have dominion and control. What, you have to be a felon to secure your gun? As a matter of fact, it's state law in most states that you have to secure your gun, because if you don't secure your gun and a minor gets a hold of it, now you're facing a felony charge for leaving your gun available to a minor. So now they're trying to state in here that that's only what felons do, that they secrete, they hide those guns in their home, and they secure them so that nobody can find them.
Can't get them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't everybody do that? I mean, isn't that what you're supposed to do as a legal firearm, a lawful firearm owner?
Yeah.
I would think so. And then it goes on to say, it goes back to the regurgitated lies about Forrester pointing the gun at a federal agent. During the interview, KC Massey both admitted to interviewing officers and special agents of the FBI to possessing some of the firearms seized. Massey admitted to owning the Zastava pistol that Forrester had. No, I didn't. And he admitted lending it to him. Said that U.S. Border Patrol supervisor from Fort Brown Station witnessed Massey carrying a holstered Springfield XDS. Like I just said earlier, I have direct testimony from that, quote, Border Patrol agent that said I was not observed carrying a holstered or period .45. He did not see it.
So doesn't that mean he's going to be liable for perjury on this?
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's perjury. Rotuno is a lying piece of shit. And he's proved it in his own documents and through court testimony of Cantu.
Why hasn't the U.S. attorney started filing charges on them for the laws that they're breaking? What is this, a one-sided monkey?
Yeah, it's a one-sided monkey, and the U.S. attorney is too busy trying to send me up the river. He told my attorney that I was supposed to be a lay-down case, and this was causing him a lot of grief from up the river. There's a pressure for him to dam me up.
Massey, lay-down case.
Yeah, here it is.
I'm sorry, I've got to laugh. They just really didn't know you at all, did they, Bubba?
No, they didn't. And then here's F. It says, during these encounters on more than one occasion, United States Border Patrol agents have seen Massey carrying what appears to be a holstered firearm on his hip. Now, remember, people, I've just said numerous times, I don't carry a holster. I don't wear a holster. I've never wore a holster. I hate holsters. So go back and look at any picture of me at any time, and you will never, ever see me with a pistol holster on my body. I don't wear holsters. And it says that it carrying what appears to be a holstered firearm on his hip and a rifle slung around his neck. Well, by Texas law, open carry of a rifle is completely legal. Completely legal. And on private property, there is no law that says that you can't carry a pistol any way you want to. If I wanted to have it stuck out of my belly, if I wanted it coming out of my back, it doesn't matter. It's private property. Even the sheriff does not have jurisdiction or authority on private property unless called. So their observation that they've made and stated in this, not only is it a lie, but it's irrelevant.
Oh, it's not only that. It's strictly inflammatory, dude. It is inflammatory. They wanted the judge to read that and be incensed at how dare you do something like that, you sorry bastard. Oh, wait a minute, yeah. That's normal. Damn.
Well, and then here's something else.
Thank God you got Judge Hannon, because I don't think that man's going to get inflamed over bullshit. But I think he's going to get pretty inflamed over being lied to.
Yeah, there's somebody that keeps calling us on the show that's calling in with an area code 111, phone number 111-1111. I keep having fun dumping him off the board. But that's probably one of these federal jerk-offs listening. And, I'm talking real negative like this, and I apologize, people. But, I've been harassed and set up by the feds, and I'm highly agitated. They've tried to destroy my life. They tried to make me out to be a Timothy McVeigh. They spread false information and lies to the media when I was immediately arrested, said that I had bomb-making material like Timothy McVeigh. I mean, it's ridiculous what these guys have said and done to damage and ruin me. So I am incensed, and I am using harsh language towards them. And if anybody's offended, I'm sorry. But I'm offended that they've been doing this to me, and they've been getting away with it up to this point. Anyway, then it goes on to say, these encounters are videotaped by Massey, usually via body-mounted camera or a vehicle-mounted camera, then posted to Massey's Facebook page. Affiant, which is Lion Shitbag Ratuno, has viewed Massey's Facebook and has viewing the posted videos that depict Massey on patrol and other individuals who were armed with long guns. Okay? And what is the relevance and the point of that? Because in Texas, there is no law against carrying a long gun, open arms. There's no law against it. It's totally legal. So why are you saying this? What is the relevance other than you're trying to villainize me and sound like I'm a criminal? Massey has video that depicts and numerous still photos depicting Massey and others armed with firearms. Friday, October 17th of 2014 was the last time Border Patrol agents saw Massey carrying a firearm, more specifically what they referred to as automatic firearms. Now, any of you guys out there listening that know about firearms, you cannot determine the rate of fire of a firearm by observation. It's impossible. All those mean black guns, they look the same. And the only difference is the selector switch will go all the way up if it's a fully automatic. But by observation, seeing somebody carrying that weapon, you are not able to determine the rate of fire with observation. You have to be able to handle the weapon, to look at the internal components to see if it's capable of automatic fire, or to actually fire it to see if it will fire at an automatic rate of fire. Either way, that was never done.
More lies.
So,
more lies.
More lies.
Let's
so
get a
my
few more
question is, how
inflammatories
can
in
you
there.
use a statement like that and say that I was carrying an automatic weapon when you can't substantiate that, when you cannot prove that that actually occurred? But yet you can use that lie in this legal swore-to paperwork against me. He never cited who saw me. He just used a generic Border Patrol agents. Who are the agents? Bring them forth. Where's their affidavit and their testimony that I had a fully automatic weapon?
They don't have it.
No, they don't.
They don't have it.
Here's another
and just
one.
like you said, they expected you to lay down and go, oh, snivel, crap, I'm going to get 5 years for a firearm that I wasn't supposed to have. Well, guess what? You weren't supposed to have it. There wasn't anything wrong with you having it. They better jack up some proof.
Well, according to Texas law, in case anybody isn't familiar, Texas law, Penal Code 46.04, states that it is unlawful for a person that has been convicted of a felony to possess a firearm before the 5th anniversary of their release from supervision or parole, which in my case, my sentence ended in 1993. 5 years after my sentence was 1998.
Oh, dude, I know what happened. They've gone and went and gone through that Common Core crud trying to figure out how to count. They haven't figured out how to add. Son of a gun.
I was over 16 years legal by state law to own and possess a firearm at the place I live, and I lived on the border. You know, I'll get to this in a minute, too. This is in the government's response where they said, basically, yeah, we know he wasn't living on the river. Oh, really? Oh, really? With all the agents that you had, where was I living then? You know what I mean? I lived on
every
the
time
river.
they saw, every time
in the brush.
Every time you came in contact with an agent, if it wasn't at Camp Lone Star, it was in the brush.
Absolutely. I lived on the border for 4 months. Here's another thing. It goes, this is Jay. At approximately 9:30 a.m., ATF Special Agent, along with the assistance of FBI, United States Border Patrol, Cameron County Sheriff's agents and officers, established surveillance at the Value Place and located Massey's vehicle parked in the front. Surveillance on this vehicle was maintained until Massey was arrested leaving the Value Place at approximately 1 p.m. As he was walking toward his vehicle while talking on the phone to someone using a white iPhone 5, which that's another lie because I was looking down at the phone trying to dial a phone number when I started hearing him scream, "Get down, get down, get down." And that's when I looked up and I had almost 30 friggin' rifles pointed at my head. I was not on the phone. So there again, I know it's a simple lie, and it really is inconsequential, but that stupid shithead was right there, and he still lied about what I was doing when I walked out. The iPhone 5 is a smartphone which is capable of taking still photos and uploading photos to Facebook via the Internet, which Affiant has performed on numerous occasions with his own iPhone. So now I'm curious, how does Rotuno know whether or not I use my phone to upload video to the Internet? Because factually, I use my computer to do so. Factually, I would take and hook my phone to my computer, get the data from my phone, and use the Internet connection of the hotel to send my data to the Internet. But yet Rotuno sits there and speaks authoritatively like he saw me on numerous occasions use my iPhone to upload videos and pictures.
Well, he's testifying to facts that are not in evidence. He's testifying to facts that are not in evidence. He's lying.
Well, of course.
What I want to see is this guy. I want to see this guy go to jail for his lies.
I would too. And then it's sworn and subscribed before me on October 20th, 2014. Ronald G. Morgan, U.S. Magistrate. Batfag Anthony Rotuno, Special Agent. So he swore this and subscribed this before Judge Morgan. And yet it's full of lies. And again, Judge Morgan was the patsy judge that they used in my criminal complaint and the search warrant of my property. Because
I don't think he's going to be too happy with him either.
No, they lied to him.
Yeah. You know, they flat out, they have, their credibility has gone down the tubes now. I don't think that judge will ever take anything they say at face value again.
Well, they shouldn't, because they're a bunch of liars. They have no truth left in them. And, you know, it's one thing. That. Somebody has legally and lawfully broke the law, and you're a criminal, and you get caught. Then, hey, man, you shouldn't have been breaking the law. You were doing what you shouldn't have been doing. But here's the thing. I did not break the law. I did not break state law. If I would have broke state law, here's a clue, people. The sheriff would have put me in jail that day. They don't wait a week or two to come put you in jail, or 2 months to put you in jail when they've got you dead to rights right then and there. They caught us, me, whatever, in quotes, with a firearm July 29th, according to multiple statements by Border Patrol, that I had a firearm on me that day. But yet I was not arrested by the Cameron County Sheriff. Why? Because he acknowledged in court. Well, he acknowledged in court that I was beyond the 5-year rule, and I was on private property, and that property I was living on, and I had care, custody, and control of. Therefore, I did not violate Texas law, and he is charged with upholding Texas law. The federal government is the ones who decided they wanted to come on this witch hunt after me. So now we can go to the government's response. Their latest response, filed in court with the Honorable Judge Hannon, which is written by Hagan, who's a corrupt SOB himself, because Hagan knows of these inconsistent statements. He has access to all of this information that my lawyer, he's making my lawyer go to his office and physically read and watch this stuff when it's supposed to be provided to him, but they're forcing my lawyer to go to their office to read it. So either Hagan has been too lazy to read it, or he's read it, he knows how corrupt the case is, and he's still pressing forward. But let's go ahead and start with what Hagan responded to the judge in my case. Number one, I'll just go ahead and read it real quick. It won't take me but a second. It says, defendant seeks suppression of evidence obtained on August 29th, asserting that evidence was obtained without warrant and in violation of his 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights. Defendant's argument fails because, number one, defendant was observed carrying a rifle, and that observation was made prior to any alleged search or stop. Okay. In Texas, open carry of a rifle is not illegal. Why don't you guys, anybody that has any doubt, go look at these open carry guys, and when the cops approach them and try to get them to give up their ID, and they refuse to give them ID because what law do you suspect that I broke? What crime do you think I've committed? Oh, well, none. Okay, then you don't need my ID. So you're not required to show your ID simply because you're open carrying a rifle. There is no crime in Texas for open carrying a rifle. But yet, Hagan put in here that because I was observed open carrying a rifle. Second, defendant was asked for his identification by law enforcement in the course of investigating a shooting involving a federal agent. Why was I required to give my ID? Because here's the equivalent. If you are 2 blocks down the road from a bank robbery and this bank gets robbed and a guy pulls out a gun and shoots a cop or does anything, can they come down there, pick you up, snatch you up, and hold you for 2, 4, however many hours and question you about something that you did not see, that you did not witness, and then try to take any evidence that they got from you illegally and try to use it against you for another supposed crime? Well, that's what they're trying to do to me. It says the defendant was detained after the shooting occurred as a potential witness. Yet on the stand, Cantu testified that he knew I was not a witness. He knew that I was not present at the shooting scene. So what was I a witness to? What was I there to witness? What was I there to talk about?
Are you going to get your crickets on my side, man?
Yeah. Number 4, defendant's firearm was seized to protect both law enforcement and civilian witnesses. Well, let's think about this. 3 civilians and the rest was law enforcement. But yet Cantu testified in court under oath that he was not in fear of myself and Varner being armed, that he had no fear that we were going to harm him or do anything to him. And as a matter of fact, he left us armed for a long time prior to securing the weapons in his Border Patrol vehicle. So there was no need or fear of officer safety, according to the testimony of Cantu. And the only witness to the shooting was John Forrester, because Varner and I did not see the shooting, were not a witness to the shooting, and knew nothing about the shooting. Number 5, the defendant's possession of 2 firearms was in violation of both state law and federal law. Well, if it was in violation of state law, then why didn't the sheriff arrest me? He was there. He had my identification. He had the firearms that they said that I was carrying. So why didn't he arrest me if I was in violation of state law? Oh, I know, because he testified on the stand that I was not in violation of state law. Ha!
And how would he know that? How would he know that you weren't in violation of state law unless he knew what your criminal history was?
Well, but that's
he already knew.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a minute too. That's another. That's another tricky deal. But so it says that I was in violation of both state and federal law, when that is completely inaccurate and false, because I was compliant with state law. I was at the place that I live. And federal law doesn't apply to me because I was not engaged in commerce, nor did I receive a firearm through commerce. So I wasn't in violation of state or federal law. But that's what they said. It says the evidence obtained by law enforcement on August 29th was lawfully obtained without the need of a warrant. Border Patrol Agent Cantu observed the defendant carrying a rifle. The observation of the defendant was not a result of a search or stop. The defendant was observed by law enforcement carrying a large rifle in plain view on private property. There are no constitutional safeguards triggered by the initial observation of Cantu. Yeah, there is. It's called open carry, and anybody has a right to open carry a rifle. They're trying to assert and allege that it is against the law to openly carry a rifle in Texas. Well, I got news for you, man. I've been here all my life, and it's been legal all of my life to carry a long arm. You can carry it in your vehicle. You can carry it on your person. There is no law against open carry of a firearm. But yet this liar, Hagan, is sitting here saying that he's basically asserting that it's against the law to open carry because it's a large rifle. After gunshots were heard and before going to the scene of the shooting, Cantu requested identification from the defendant. Now, why would he? That's not the way it happened, but why would he want my identification if there's a shooting in progress and he needs to go check his agent to make sure his agent is okay? Why would he request my ID instead of going to the aid of another agent. Why would he do that? But yet this liar Hagan says this in his own statement. Defendant provided the Texas driver's license to Cantu. A police officer is free to ask a person for identification without implicating the Fourth Amendment. Well, here's something else, people, and just so you don't know, in case you don't know. According to Texas law, you are not required to identify yourself unless you are under arrest or suspect of a crime. Cantu knew at the time that I was not involved in a crime and I was not a suspect or a witness to the shooting. And so by Texas Penal Code, Section 38.02, failure to identify, it is worded as such. A person commits an offense if he intentionally refuses to give his name, residence, address, or date of birth to a peace officer who has lawfully arrested the person and requested the information. I was not lawfully arrested. I was not compelled. He did not get my identification at that point.
Oh, you were arrested. You read your Miranda rights, the whole thing. Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And then he goes on to quote a bunch of little bullshit legal sites. Hebel versus 6th Judicial District of Nevada, Humboldt County. Interrogation relating to one's identity or request for identification by the police does not itself constitute a Fourth Amendment seizure. And then he quotes INS v. Delgado. That's another friggin' case that has to do with an illegal immigrant. Had nothing to do with the legal American citizen. So what they did by requesting I was stupid for ever giving it to him, but I never gave him my identification till we got to the staging area. That's when Cantu asked me for my identification, and he asked Barter, and he asked John for his. But it wasn't until we were at the staging area. He never requested my identification prior to that. Matter of fact, up to that point, he was very apologetic and very sorry for his officer shooting at my teammate. And then it goes on to say, therefore, Cantu's request and receipt of the defendant's identification was not in violation of the Fourth Amendment. Cantu went to the scene of the shooting, disarmed Forrester, spoke to the eyewitness of the shooting, and then returned to the location of the defendant. So right there, they're stating that they know I was not a witness nor a party to the shooting at all. It says that he disarmed Forrester, which we'll talk about that in just a second, spoke to an eyewitness of the shooting, and then returned to the location of the defendant, me.
Wouldn't that eyewitness to the shooting be Forrester?
Well,
because
it would be that agent
that
took the fifth. Yeah, the agent that lawyered up.
Yeah. So, I mean, Cantu
was carrying Forrester's firearm when he returned to defendant. Cantu knew shots had been fired, but did not know if the Border Patrol agent who fired the shots had been threatened by Forrester or had made a mistake or committed a crime against Forrester. So right there, they're admitting that the interaction, the shooting, was between Forrester and this Border Patrol agent. I had nothing to do with it. I was not a witness nor a party. And let's take this brief moment and go into the disarming of Forrester. According to previous testimony and statements by the Border Patrol and statements to me directly when I was there, they said that when Forrester turned with the rifle in his hand, the pistol in his hand, that the agent opened fire. Boom, boom, drop your weapon. Boom, boom, boom. And John dropped the firearm on the dirt and said, hey, goddammit, I'm on your side. Forrester became pissed off. This is according to what I saw after the Border Patrol had brought him up to where I was at. Forrester was aggravated and mad because this guy just shot at him. But according to the testimony of Cantu, they told me, Forster told me that he dropped the gun when the agent fired at him. Now, imagine if Forster hadn't dropped the gun, the agent would have continued to fire. So we know that by the agent stopped firing, that Forster must have dropped the weapon. But yet Cantu testified that when he got to the scene of the shooting, that Forster was holding the weapon, which means that the Border Patrol agent who just discharged 5 shots at him, who then John became combative and angry because he shot at him, allowed Forster to pick the gun back up. At what point Cantu approached him and took the firearm from Forster. Now, how many people believe that bullshit? When does a cop shoot at you, you drop your gun, and then they allow you to pick your gun back up? I mean, really? Seriously? I mean,
I ain't seen that on TV.
Really foo-foos? Oh, no. Come on, man. It don't happen like that. You know what I mean?
It doesn't happen that way in real life.
Well, but that's what he testified to. That's what.
And if that is what happened in real life, then that cop knew after he discharged his weapon that he had fired it at the wrong person, that he wasn't a threat, and Forster picked it back up.
Yep, and here, listen to this. It goes on to say, defendant Forster and Varner boarded the Kawasaki motor vehicle and traveled a short distance to an open field. Defendant asked, that's me, defendant asked if we could leave. Cantu told him they needed to follow him to the staging area approximately 260 yards away. The government says it is proper for Cantu to request the defendant and other occupants of the vehicle to remain, see U.S. versus Bolden, upholding the stop of a vehicle at gunpoint that may contain witnesses, participants, or victims of a crime. Well, he allowed the, quote, witness to the crime to board my mule. He did not secure Forster. He did not handcuff Forster. And I asked him if we could leave because John was the only one that saw the shooting. Varner and I were not a part of the shooting, nor did we see the shooting, nor did we have any knowledge or information of what had occurred. So I asked if we could leave, and I was told that I could not. Under testimony from Agent Cantu by my lawyer, he said, well, what would have happened, Agent Cantu, if Mr. Massey would have tried to leave? Well, I would have put him in handcuffs and put him in a Border Patrol vehicle. So you're saying that Mr. Massey was not detained, but yet if he would have tried to leave, even though he wasn't a witness, he was not a participant, he did not discharge a weapon, that you would have placed him in handcuffs and put him in the vehicle? Yes. Sounds like to me I was under arrest. I just didn't have handcuffs on. And then they said upholding a stop that once all parties were at the staging area, Cantu secured the long firearms in his patrol vehicle for officer safety. But like I stated earlier, he testified in court that he was not in fear of his safety and us being armed. But they're trying to articulate officer safety in this bullshit motion. Defendant agreed to have this and voluntarily removed a handgun that was carried in his waistband. Well, here we go again. First off, I did not have a weapon in my waistband. But earlier, they said that I had it in a holster. So what did I have? Did I have a weapon on me? It was also in testimony that Cantu said he never observed me with a pistol. So did I not have a pistol? Did I have a pistol in my waistband, or did I have a holstered pistol? What's the truth? What really happened? Because you numb-nutted idiots can't get it straight. Your story is not straight. And it says that we voluntarily, what choice did we have? We were told that he was going to secure the arms. Okay. Well, I mean, what are we going to do? Shoot it out and tell him no? Not voluntarily. Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't stick a gun in my mouth, but there wasn't any choice. He wasn't going to accept no. it was reasonable for Cantu to request defendant and his companions disarm pending the investigation into the events that precipitated the shooting. If an officer develops and is able to articulate reasonable grounds to believe that suspect is armed and presently dangerous to the officer, third parties or himself, the officer may take swift measures to discover the true facts and neutralize the threat if harm materializes. But yet in testimony, he said he was not in fear or in threat of his safety. So why are you articulating that he was when he testified that he was not? Another contradiction. It says that to determine if an investigative detention is reasonable, common sense and ordinary human experience must govern over rigid criteria. Talking about a Terry stop. Well, a Terry stop typically gives them 30 minutes to play with you and jam you up. They had, at their count, over 3 hours of holding me. I said it was closer to 5. But their time frame and my time frame doesn't line up, which we can prove what I'm saying by their radio records and by the time that this cop checked the guns in to the sheriff's department. So that is I am going to be able to prove my time frame over theirs. They're lying. I'm not. I wrote the report on it when we got back to camp that night, and I put the times down. So those times are true, genuine, and factual. And we'll be able to prove that they're lying on the time frame, too. But they're saying that it was not unreasonable to hold me for 3+ hours when I was not a witness nor a participant into the investigation. Additionally, Forrester was angry and wanted to fight the agent who fired upon him. But yet that agent let him pick his gun back up, and then Cantu was able to disarm him. Okay. Cantu secured the weapons for safety reasons, knowing that additional officers would be arriving with the intent of preventing an encounter between armed civilians and the arriving law enforcement. Well, if we were going to shoot the law enforcement, wouldn't we have done it when they shot at us? Why would we wait for them to come and then we start shooting at them then? So that doesn't even make sense. I mean, that's ridiculous. To even imply that is ridiculous. Cantu observed and noted who was carrying the various weapons. Cameron County Sheriff Deputy Valerio arrived at the staging area at 4:19. Cantu briefed Valerio on what happened and provided him with the defendant's identification, which is true, but he didn't get my identification until we got to the staging area. And it's that point when he got mine and Varner's and ID, and he asked Forrester for his. Now, I don't recall whether Forrester had identification on him or not. I don't remember. But according to Valerio said that Cantu gave him 3 pieces of ID. Cantu says it was only 2. I don't know. I don't remember. Valerio was concerned about returning the weapons because of the felony status of the defendant and Forrester. Valerio was instructed by his supervisor to keep the weapons pending a further investigation, which he did. Defendant's weapon possession was in violation of Texas Penal Code 4604. Now, again, I say if that was true and correct, why was I not arrested by a Texas law enforcement officer charged with enforcing the laws of the state of Texas? Why did he not arrest me right then and there if I had violated the law? Quite simply, I didn't violate the law, and they knew it. And then it goes on for the verbiage of 4604, unlawful possession of a firearm. A person who has been convicted of a felony commits an offense if he possesses a firearm after conviction and before the 5th anniversary of the person's release from confinement following conviction of the felony, or the person's release from supervision under community supervision, parole, or mandatory supervision, whichever date is later. After the period described in Subdivision 1, at any location other than the premises at which the person lives. I lived on the border. I was at the place that I lived. And then according to Hagen, he says all felons are prohibited from possessing firearms at all times, at all places away from their residence. Not according to Texas law. No matter how much time has passed from the date of their release from confinement or supervision. It was abundantly clear to Valerio that the defendant did not live in the brush or agricultural fields near the staging area, and he was without choice in keeping the firearms belonging to the defendant. Well, if it was so abundantly clear, that again, why was I not arrested under state law violation? Because I did not violate state law. I was within my rights on private property that I had permission to be on. I had care, custody, and control, and I was, quote, living out there on the border. Now, they never asked me where I was staying or living or anything. They never asked me for my residence or where I stayed. And it was not infrequent for us to spend the night out in the woods on the border. That is where I lived, therefore covered under Texas law. The firearms were properly seized without a warrant. The FBI investigation agent, David Cordova, interviewed the defendant. The interview lasted about 30 minutes. The defendant left soon after the interview concluded. The interview began shortly after 6 o'clock. Well, that's funny because by the time, according to testimony by Cordova, he didn't even get to the scene till 6 o'clock. And according to his testimony, he met with 5 other FBI agents and other law enforcement and was briefed on what was going on. And then he interviewed me for 30 minutes. So that would have put the time that he came to see me at minimum 6:15, 6:20, which then with a 30-minute interview would have thrown it back up close to 7 o'clock. But according to him, he started the interview at the time, according to Hagen, he started the interview as soon as he arrived on the scene. But that's not the testimony of that federal agent on the stand in the Honorable Judge Hannon's court. Cordova was not aware Massey was a felon and was not questioning him as a witness to the witness to the shots fired by the Border Patrol agent. Which, bear in mind, this is 6 o'clock. The shooting happened at 3:45. It was a well-established fact at right around 3:45 that I was not involved, nor was I a witness to the shooting. So why was he there to interview me as a witness when the original responding officer knew immediately I was not a witness? I did not see anything. The question of the defendant was not accusatory. Defendant was at the staging area for approximately 3 hours. While in the area, he was free to move around from his vehicle to a shady area near the road. Defendant was never handcuffed, patted down, or threatened with a weapon or treated in any way that indicated he was arrested, other than the fact that if I would have left, I would have been put in handcuffs and put in the vehicle, as heard in testimony by Cantu. I was not free to go. I asked numerous times if I could leave, and I was told no. So therefore, that is what is legally defined as a custodial arrest. Whether you have restraints on or not, if you are not free to go, that is an arrest. That is a custodial arrest. The defendant never relinquished the keys to his motor vehicle. The keys to the mule, we never took out of the mule. They always stayed in the ignition. So I didn't even have them to relinquish them. They were on the mule. The interview with Cordova took place on an open area along a dirt road. Custody for Miranda purposes requires greater restraint on freedom than a seizure under the Fourth Amendment. A suspect is in custody for Miranda purposes when placed under formal arrest or when a reasonable person in the suspect's position would have understood the situation that constitute restraint on freedom of movement from the degree which the law associates with a formal arrest. Well, I would consider it a formal arrest when I can't leave, when I'm made stay in a small confined area, though without handcuffs, I was still not free to go. So therefore, I did take it as I was under some sort of arrest or questioning for a crime that I was not involved with, nor did I witness. And the crime occurred when the Border Patrol agent shot at a civilian unprovoked, which is against the use of force manual and the use of force policies of the United States Border Patrol. Defendant's arrest and subsequent search of defendant's hotel on October 20th and the arrest of the defendant October 20th was pursuant to an arrest warrant, and a firearm was in the defendant's possession found on his person. The search of the defendant's room was pursuant to a search warrant, and a firearm was found inside the defendant's hotel. The warrants issued after finding probable cause by a neutral magistrate, Bat-Fag Ratuno, an agent with the Bat-Fag group, was not present and did not participate in the investigation on August 29th. Yeah, we know he didn't because he's a lying shitbag, and he put a bunch of lies up for the judge, Morgan, to read and sign a warrant on. So we know he wasn't involved because he lied, or else he would have used his own statements. But the thing about it is, they did not, in my search warrant, here's something else. This is how shitty the cops are, the feds. When they brought me to the FBI headquarters after my arrest, and they held me for over an hour without telling me why I was being arrested, what the problem was, after they Mirandized me and they started to ask me a question, it's even stated in the search warrant, Massey immediately invoked his Fifth Amendment right to an attorney. And then they said that I admitted that there was another gun in the hotel room. Well, here's how the conversation went. They read me my Miranda. They started to ask me a question. I said, I need a lawyer. They said, so you're not going to answer any questions? I said, I need a lawyer. So you're not going to cooperate and answer any questions? I said, I need a lawyer. Well, are there any other guns or anything else in the hotel we need to know about? I said, I don't know what's in the hotel room. I don't have another gun. And from that, they said that I had another gun. Because I said, I don't know what's in there.
Well, holy smokes.
And then the criminal complaint and search warrant were based off of statements by Border Patrol Agent Cantu, not in any affidavits or contrary to testimony of Cantu. But yet, he contradicted those affidavits and statements made by Bat-Fag Ratuno. Motion to dismiss, part of it. Defendant seeks dismissal of the indictment by challenging the constitutional of Title 18, 922G1. Defendant argues that Title 18 U.S. 922G1 is barred by the Second Amendment and unconstitutional exercise of Congress's commerce power and violates Equal Protection Acts guaranteed under the 5th and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. Defendant's arguments are without merit. No, I challenge the defendant's constitutional authority to regulate firearms. I didn't challenge their constitutional authority over commerce. They do have the constitutional authority over commerce, but not firearms, because the Second Amendment in the Constitution is very clear. Shall not be infringed.
Infringed.
Shall not. Yep.
Yep.
So I didn't challenge their authority.
At the end of that sentence, it's got a really, really cool thing. It's called a period. End of discussion.
Yep.
So.
And they don't have any jurisdiction or authority to regulate firearms through the Constitution. They have the right to regulate commerce. I was not engaged in commerce nor did I receive directly any weapon through commerce, which would give them jurisdiction. So it's all a complete lie. I mean, it's a complete lie.
And there's a lot of guys that are sitting in jail right now on the same charge, and they didn't stand up. Or if they did try to stand up, they didn't have a judge that would actually
Well,
look
let me
at the
be
law.
real honest with you. I did not catch the has-had thing right away. That was brought to my attention by Gary Hunt. Because Gary, he's a writer, so he's really good at the wording, what words mean and what it all meant. And my concentration and focus at the beginning was, hey, look, I wasn't engaged in commerce. I've never been engaged in commerce. I've never moved goods or services through the state or through foreign country. I've never shipped or received a firearm, and I never possessed in or affecting any firearm that had to do with commerce. And then Gary pointed out the has-had argument, and that, sure enough, that's what they were trying to come after me with. They're trying to come after me as if the word was had when the word is has. Had would mean at any point at any time, where has means I had to be directly involved.
Wow.
Here's another little tidbit of cute stuff for you. Black's Law Dictionary defines the term felon as a person who has been convicted of a felony, and in turn defines the term felony as a serious crime, usually punishment by imprisonment for more than 1 year or both, or death, by death. So you go back and you research felon, you were not considered a felon after you had discharged your sentence. You were only considered a felon while you were under conviction. And typically, to be called a felon back then, it had to be a serious crime, like murder, rape, stuff like that, which I was never convicted of.
A heinous crime.
A heinous crime.
There you go.
So, like I said, that basically ends what they said and what they're trying to assert against me. My lawyer is going to have a field day over this whole deal. So I feel good. I feel good that we have the Honorable Judge Hannon as our presiding judge. He's already made it abundantly clear that he cannot stand federal prosecutors that lie, because the federal government has lied to him directly in his court to his face about this Obamacare crap, the Obama amnesty. And Judge Hannon is highly aggravated about these lying sacks of crap. And he is not going to tolerate the continued lies by these federal agents. And I cannot wait for this to be articulated and put in front of Judge Hannon for him to see it. And then for him to go cross-reference what we're saying they're lying about, because they did it to themselves. They lied in affidavits and testimony under oath to facts that they've changed and contradicted themselves. They did it. It's all their fault. I've been saying all along that they were lying. But now they've proven it with their own words. They've demonstrated by their own actions that they're disingenuous and liars.
I don't see how they can keep their jobs if they're going to. Well, if this is the type of person and this is the type of method that they use, how can we honestly keep employing them? As an American, I don't want them in that job. They need to be fired.
Well, they need to be in prison, because whenever you take the duty of and the responsibility of prosecuting people, it should be in the interest of justice, not in the interest of political expedience or for political reasons, because I'm not a criminal, nor did I commit any criminal act. I did not violate any law while I was on the border. I did my duty as an American, a proud American, to defend my country from foreign invaders. You were there, you know, James. We were being invaded. We still are being invaded.
We're being invaded. You know, and on top of that, they've got us paying and feeding and giving these invaders. We're paying them. We're footing the bill for the invasion force. What the hell?
I know, man. It's ridiculous.
That's what prompted me to go to the border in the first place, was their lack of fulfilling their obligations to the Union, to our state, to our fellow Americans, by them just ignoring their job. They made it my job and your job to go do that job. We were doing that job, and they didn't want to see it done at all, so they did all that they could to impede us from doing our job.
Yep. Our job as American citizens, as the American, quote, militia, because understand, people, the militia is not a dirty word, despite what the mainstream media tries to shove down your throat. The militia,
boy, haven't they tried to paint it that way.
The unorganized militia is made up of men from 18 to 45. It is compulsory by the Dick Act of 1910 that all males that are healthy enough to participate are to support and defend the United States in times of insurrection and invasion. It is our duty as Americans to defend our homeland. When the federal government lies to us and is not doing the job, it is our duty to do so, and that's what we did. But here's the thing, and James can tell you, we exposed their corruption. We exposed the federal government's involvement in abetting illegal immigrants. We exposed them for being involved in illegal narco trafficking. And if you doubt what I'm telling you, please go to the Brownsville News, go to KRGV down there in the Valley, go to any of the news stores, go to Breitbart, Texas. And Adelfonso is a writer down there. Go look at how many stories he has written about corrupt federal agents and corrupt county and state cops that they have busted recently involved in narco trafficking. There is a heavy criminal element amongst law enforcement in that community. Heavy. Those guys are more corrupt and crooked than the mob. They are in bed with the cartel.
And they make it impossible for guys that are standing up or trying to stand up and do their job. They're making it impossible for them. They're making their lives impossible to live down there. They're keeping their children at risk constantly of being snatched up, their families of being tortured. And they're aiding and abetting this. They are helping them.
They're doing everything they can to destroy this country. And Obama, through his policies, through Homeland Security and immigration, are destroying this country. And Judge Hannon has seen it for what it is, and he's called him out on it. But, you know, it's
Absolutely.
far deeper. I mean, look at Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, the scumbag, scrote-bag that's trying to push orders down the river to come after me. He was in bed, proven with the cartel. He sold them illegal guns, grenade launchers, and grenades and explosives. It's called the Fast and Furious. Border Patrol agent Brian Terry was murdered because of Eric Holder's gun running deals. Eric Holder is in bed with the cartels and has been for numerous years. He is a domestic terrorist above all. And he is our nation's top law enforcement official. He's the ones that are pushing this crap down on me, who did not do anything wrong, who did not violate the law, and I did what I did to protect our country, our sovereign borders.
As a matter of fact, it is Eric Holder's job to enforce those immigration laws that are on the books, regardless of what his superiors tell him. No, you need to turn a blind eye to that. He is supposed to uphold those laws. He is supposed to enforce those laws regardless of what his superiors say. And he is not holding up with his oath. Not to the American Constitution.
He's a part of it. Well,
He is not holding up his oath to the American Constitution or his oath of office. He is holding up an oath to something else. He is upholding an oath to something else, something black in this country that needs to be rooted out and burned out and gotten rid of.
Well, it's just like there's a guy named Christopher Wolf. He was arrested in Montana on the 23rd of last month. Do you know that it has been 2 weeks and he has still not been arraigned? The government, we found out today, has him incommunicado. In other words, they are preventing him from being able to communicate outside of the jail. They have censored and blocked his mail, and they are not allowing him to call out. And this is
what is he charged with?
He's the one that's a federal agent. Yeah, well, he's been charged with buying a machine gun, shotgun, automatic shotgun that the feds built, transported illegally from Utah to Montana and sold it to him. And as soon as they put it in his hands, they arrested him. And he had a blog talk radio show out of Montana. His name was William Christopher Wolf. And he's still being held without bond, without any... Did he know that it was fully automatic? Well, he knew that he was buying a... That's what the feds say, but we don't know that because we can't talk to him. They don't allow him to communicate. But he was charged with violation of 18 U.S. 922-0. It shall be unlawful for any person to transfer or possess a machine gun. And they're saying that he had a machine gun because this Sega shotgun had been converted to automatic. But the federal government was the ones that brought it to him, solicited him to buy it, illegally transported it, delivered it to him, and then as soon as he gave them the money and touched the gun, they arrested him. Like I said, I don't know at this point whether he knew it was automatic or he just thought he was buying a Sega.
No kidding.
But he's still being held out of communication with the American public. Gary Hunt's working on his story, too. I just want to take a brief moment. All you guys listening, we got a lot of people on the board. Can't tell how many people are listening live on the web. But if any of you guys would like to call in and talk to us, the phone number to call in is 929-477-3565. And if you're already on the line, if you're on the board and you want to talk, all you have to do is hit number 1. And when you hit 1, that quote raises your hand so that I can tell that you want to talk, and then I'll bring you on. As a matter of fact, somebody just raised their hand and wants to come on. So let me bring them on and talk and see what they've got. Oh, we got hands going up everywhere. Hold on just a minute, guys, and I'll get right to you. 6663.
Hey, hello, KC. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
This is Wilbur. I'm just mainly here to listen. I don't have a whole lot of input. I'm soaking up a lot of knowledge just listening to you. The one thing I do find is it's highly alarming that we have so many Border Patrol agents and federal agents that will quickly lie and suppress evidence or omit evidence. Myself, I had a small felony on me 40 years ago, where back in the day when they just tore it up and threw it away when it was over. and everything. And this can happen to anybody. Anybody. I've had several dealings with the police officers. They all knew I carry a pistol. I've never had a problem, but you never know. You never know when they're going to pop up and say, "Oh, well, by the way, looky here." So my sentiments are with you, and I'm going to see if I can take knowledge that I've gained tonight and put it into one of my articles for you.
Well, I surely appreciate it. And that's, one of my main missions for being so vocal about this is we need to let Americans know the game that they're trying to use to come after people and strip them of their guns. And like I stated when I told everybody at the beginning of the show, it says a person convicted of a crime with the punishment exceeding 1 year. So that includes misdemeanors, people. You do not have to be convicted of a felony. And some of the other conditions are people that have been judged to have a mental defect. In other words, if you go to a shrink and he says you're bipolar, you are now guilty of 922, and you can be prosecuted for having a gun. Another condition is if you are judged to be addicted to any type of drug. Let's just say, for instance, you live in Colorado. Federally, marijuana is against the law. So if you have a prescription to marijuana and you have marijuana in your system and you're a patriot, they can come after you under 922 and charge you with a federal crime because you use marijuana, even though it's legal in your state. Another thing is if you have denounced your citizenship, if you say I'm no longer an American citizen, I don't want to be an American citizen, they can charge you with 922 for having a firearm. If you were dishonorably discharged from the military, like some of our vets from these recent wars got into a shooting incident where the government, just like we've got this lieutenant that's doing 20 years for protecting his men, he was dishonorably discharged for protecting and serving his men. Well, if you were a soldier who did something that the government said, oh, well, you shouldn't have shot that guy, and so they give you an Article 15 and they dishonorably discharge you, now you are barred from ever having a firearm. They are trying to use this to come after people illegally. The federal government does not have the right to regulate firearms, period. They have the right to regulate commerce. A firearm that comes through commerce directly to you, they have the authority over. But if that firearm has traveled from firearms dealer to firearms dealer and is sold in your state, it is no longer under the jurisdiction of the federal government unless you're talking to them, and then they say it's their property and jurisdiction forever and always, which is strictly against the Constitution, and they have no constitutional authority to back that up. But because so many people have copped out, they feel that they can bully people because, especially over the has had, and they haven't done their research and they don't understand the value of those words. Like I said, has would mean it's a third-party present. I directly received that firearm through commerce as the example of Oswald, who received his rifle that he shot Kennedy supposedly with directly through the mail. That's what the law was written for. But they are trying to substitute the word has with the word had, which would go with their narrative. And we have got to wake people up to understand that, and people have got to stand up for their rights because they are trying to come after our guns, and they're doing it illegally and unlawfully and unconstitutionally. They do not have that authority.
Yeah, I pointed out, I pointed out something in Dr. Green, Raging Elephants, that I learned just recently, and the Patriots need to know this. One of the main tricks is to see if they can register as many guns as possible so they know where they're at. I found out, I had a shotgun that was handed down from my grandfather back in 1917. He was on patrol down at the border against Pancho Villa, and he had this old shotgun he carried and a pistol, and that thing came down to the family, and I had it. I got needing some money about 6 months ago before my book started selling, so I trotted down to a pawn shop, and I pawned this shotgun, okay? God knows when it was made, but I know that for sure you had it in 17. When I went back to retrieve it from the pawn shop, I had to fill out paperwork as if I was purchasing it for the first time, and it was then registered. So they now know I have a shotgun.
Oh, whoa. Now, that's your option in Texas, whether or not you register a firearm or not.
No, but what he's referring to, James,
they got the paperwork.
Yeah, what he's referring to is the regular firearms paperwork. It's just like, see, that's how the federal government knows that I did not directly engage in the buying or commerce of those guns, because the backfags have traced those guns back to the original dealer in Texas that sold those firearms to legal first purchasers. From that point forward, they belong under the jurisdiction of the state of Texas. And the federal government has backgrounded every one of the guns that was involved in the incidents. And that's another reason why they know for fact I was not a recipient of those guns through commerce. So, but yes, the pawn shops are doing just exactly what you're saying, Wilbur, and it's another way to try to steal your gun or to register your gun. Like in that case, that gun hadn't been on record probably ever in its life, but now it is. That's
sad, man. That is totally sad.
It's scary. I mean, it's really scary. I tell you all the truth, I don't even know if the damn thing will fire, to be honest with you. It's a long Tom 12 gauge 3-inch bore. My dad had it. He gave it to me, and I've had it around and everything. And now when I took it to the pawn shop, the lady freaked out. It was worth X number of dollars. And, it was apparently some kind of weird-ass antique, and I didn't think anything about it. I just, and I've got the other gun I carry, and I'm going to be blunt about this, okay, just between us and a couple million listeners, I'm going to carry a gun. I live in a town called Killeen, Texas, and you can't buy a cigarette in this town after dark without carrying a gun. And I'm not going to listen to any stupid-ass homosexual federal agent were trying to recite laws to me and change letters and everything while some homeboy's trying to rob me while I'm on the way to the car. They can stick it in their ass. I don't hurt anybody. I don't hurt anybody. I don't do anything illegal. But I've been attacked 4 times in this town in the last 2 years, and every single time my pistol got me out of trouble, and that is a fact.
And they don't want people to know it.
Killeen is a big military city. I can't believe they have that kind of crime right in the middle of one of the largest military bases in Texas. That is amazing.
Oh God, Casey, I'm gonna give you all some statistical facts. People say active shooter, Columbine, this, that. We've had 3 active shooters in Killeen, Texas. I personally saw Lubies. I didn't see it on CNN. I watched them load the bodies into a Mickey's Ice truck. When they determined it wasn't a terrorist act, they took them back out and put them back in Lubies with our coroners and the judges. This is the most violent. This is the most violent town I've ever seen in my life. But go on and on. I was sitting here doing a show with Becky Williams the other night, and I was texting her. And while I was texting, I was listening to a shootout. It must have been a half a mile or more away. And Casey, you're military minded. You can tell the difference between a firecracker and a gun. There's the explosion of the shell, and then there's kind of a little mini sonic boom, right behind it. And all of a sudden, sirens all over the place, and more pistol shots and sirens. And I was telling her, I'm listening to a shootout right now. I told you how violent this town is. I'm listening to a shootout right now. It's on GI payday. It is the Wild West. It is the Wild West. It's the craziest place I've ever been. And I lived in Ocasio Wells, California.
I know Ocasio Wells.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. Done that.
Holtville.
Oh God! the Rolling Stones. Yeah.
Hey, stand by. I'm gonna leave your mic hot, but I'm gonna bring on another caller. I got another guy with his hand up, so I'm gonna bring on 05.
And by the way, it's good to talk to you. I'm here.
It's good to talk to you, too. Stand by. You're going to still be live. I'm going to bring a new caller on.
Okay.
Are you there, 0568?
Yeah, Casey, it's me, Mary. How are you?
Hey, Mary. How are you doing?
Good. What is all this bullshit going on? This is not right at all.
No, and it's the federal government trying to assert their authority over we the people when they forgot that we the people are the rightful rulers and masters of this country. For whatever reason, they seem to think that they are now our rulers, and it is our duty to make sure that they understand that they are not.
Yeah, there's too many inconsistencies, and they're trying to get you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's really makes my blood boil.
Well, they, just like they told my attorney, I was supposed to be a lay-down case. I was supposed to just take this, shut up, and go away. But the thing is, they picked the wrong guy. It's not that I'm anybody special. It's not that I'm anybody intellectual or anything like that. But I have struggled for over 25 years to regain my name and reputation. I was a criminal. I did violate the law, and I paid the penalty for my violation. But
you already did your time. Why do it again?
I wish I could answer that, but that's what they thought, is that they were going to be able to bully me and make me shut up and be embarrassed. Well, I'm not embarrassed. And anybody that knows me, the law enforcement in my community, they're all fully aware of my criminal past because I have used that to put myself in positions to help other people to get to where I'm at. I have used my history to help other people, and I'm not a criminal. I don't engage in criminal activity. I don't do anything wrong. I'm a very strong constitutional patriot, and I have worked tirelessly to rebuild my reputation and to reestablish who I am and what I am. And so I take great it makes me very angry when somebody tries to demean me as a man and all the accomplishments that I've made for over 20 years. You know, I've raised 3 kids. I've got a wonderful wife. I've been married for over 23 years. You know, I've got a daughter that's a United States Marine. I've got a son that is an electrician. And I've got another son that works for one of my electrical suppliers. All of my kids are very well-rounded, very well-grounded people. None of them are drug users or alcoholics or criminals. I've done everything I could do to make right the wrong that I did when I was young. And I refuse, after all these years, to be made into a villain or a criminal for defending my country on the border. I refuse. I'm not going to let them do that to me.
And here's the long and the short of it. If the federal government had been doing their job in the first place, defending our borders and repelling these people that are invading us, he wouldn't have been down there in the first place.
Exactly.
Well, I love my country.
It's all bureaucracy. That's all it is. And Obama is the biggest piece of shit I've ever heard of.
Well, bless your heart, darling. I'm afraid that there's a lot of people that feel the same way.
Definitely not.
Many of us.
I would like to interject something on a positive note. Ran in this little tirade about Killeen being violent, but I want to give a little kudos to the Killeen Police Department. In KC, you're not going to believe this. And those incidents I told you about, I have never been harassed. I've never been arrested. When they happen, in fact, there's one particular cop that patrols this area, and he'll walk up and he'll say, "Are you packing tonight?" "Yeah, I am." "Would you please put that thing on the table?" And they're cool as glass. Yeah. They really are. I had a guy, I'm going to relate an incident, and this is absolutely true. My son is a thug. He's in the county jail right now. We as a family, we work with him. We're trying to straighten him out by cutting him out right now. He had a drug deal, didn't pay the guy, and texted me. He actually texted me and said, "Well, $400. I'm not going to pay you. I'm not involved in that." This idiot actually texted me and said he was going to come over and kill my grandchildren. I crap it thee not. I am not kidding. So, come on. Here you go. This bozo comes over with his girlfriend, gets out of the damn car, and I met him in the driveway, And when he walked up to the driveway, he ended up with a pistol between his eyes. And he goes, "Why are you pointing a gun at me?" I said, "You said you were going to come over and shoot up my house." "I ain't got no gun." I mean, just totally stupid shit. His girlfriend called the police because she saw my gun. Here come the police and that one officer. He goes, "You have a gun?" I said, "Yeah, I do. I've got this Smith & Wesson here. Would you please put that on the table? I got to frisk you." Okay. He frisked me and everything, and I said, "You missed the high point in the small of my back." "Oh, okay." He put that on there too, And he actually went out and told the guy. He said, "Look, I've looked at the text and I've heard the story. Two things: number one, you're lucky to be alive, and number two, you're lucky I'm not arresting you." And every time I've dealt with the KPD, it's been the same thing. They are big Second Amendment supporters. That's what alarms me. What happened to Casey? It's just alien.
Thank God they've got common sense.
Well, yeah, it's alien that he was treated like that. Because I think like him. You stand up, you tell the truth, and the police say, "Okay, that's cool. Listen, I want you to sit on that bench for a little while I look this out. Could you please put that gun over there?" That's what I expect, because they can look in the eyes and tell if you're dangerous toward them, and I'm not. As a matter of fact, if I were to be in a position where a police officer was being assaulted by a bunch of thugs and he was outgunned, I would be on the police officer's side. I would be in his assistance, It's about this whole story of Casey has just blown me away that they went, number one, why were they after KC Massey? And Casey, I want to ask you that, and then I'll yield and let you talk. With all the people helping on the border, why in the world were they hot on you like that? What was the big deal? And I'll yield now and let you just explain that.
Man, the only thing that I can think of why the government had such a hard-on for me is because I was proving them to be liars. Because when I went to the border, Obama and Eric Holder were saying that the border was as secure as it ever was. There was no problem. They said that we as militia didn't need to go because we did not have the power to arrest. And they said that we did not have the training necessary to be able to stop these illegal invaders. So my main mission when I went to the border was to, one, stop the illegal invasion, but two, to prove that what the government was telling us was a complete lie, that it was totally untrue and totally full of shit. We proved without a doubt that we have the power of arrest. It's called a citizen's arrest. Any American has the right to arrest and detain somebody you witness committing a crime. Well, when you're swimming that river, that is a crime. You are crossing an international boundary without going through the proper port of entry. It is a crime. Number two, we proved that training is obviously their problem because they sit 300 or 400 yards off the border. We sat 20 yards off the border and physically observed the river so that as soon as they got in the river, we were able to get in between them and American soil and prevent them from coming onto our soil. And when we would catch them on our soil, we would go toward them and flush them back to the river and make them swim back across. And we've got this documented on video on YouTube. So what I'm saying, I'm not just making up. It is factually documented. So, the government didn't like that I was making them a liar.
Well, something that you touched on just then, I don't have a license to carry. And the reason I don't have it is a stupid reason. I had a driver's license with a different address, and I was just too lazy to go down and coincide the addresses before, I got the license. I did take the course. which I didn't need, but I took the damn thing anyway. But in the course, there was a part of it that says, under Texas law, you're in a Valero or a Shell station, and you're carrying your licensed weapon, and there is a robbery, and you hide and don't do anything. You observe a felony, you observe people's lives in danger, and you don't do anything. You have some explaining to do when the police get there. You're not only may make a citizen's arrest, you are expected to do something rather than lay down.
Yes, you are.
Yes,
you are. And that's what people have forgotten. It is our duty. We are required to do it.
There should be no compulsion or requirement for us to have our Second Amendment right. We should not have to pay a fee to have a right that was given to us by God as an unalienable right of self-defense. Even here in Texas, we have these scrote bag politicians that are trying to feed us this open carry with a license. They call it constitutional carry with a license. No, constitutional carry means I don't have to pay any fee. Constitutional carry means that you are going to abide by the Constitution that says we all have the absolute right of self-defense. I'm the first one that would, here in Hunt County, and you can ask the cops out here. It was said for a long time by many of the cops that I know that if I was getting my ass kicked on the side of the road and I could pray for one guy to drive by, it would be KC Massey. Because the cops out here know that right is right, wrong is wrong. If the bad guy's wrong, I'm all over it. But I'm also, if the cop is wrong, I'll be all over you too. And I've been proving that point lately by that crooked cop that beat up that pregnant girl out here in my county. And the sheriff out here is allowing it to go on. And he is a drunk, despot gambler, and I have the dirt on him, and I will reveal him. I'm not scared to stand against anybody that is corrupt and crooked. I don't care who you are. The law is the law, and we all have to follow and treat each other with respect. Now, I'm not into the laws as far as, every law that's written, oh, yeah, you got to follow the law. No, I'm into constitutional law. I'm into the law of not harming or victimizing anyone for any reason. You, in my opinion, you are free to do what you want to yourself, and I could care less. I could care less if you shot up battery acid. It is not my business. But once you victimize another person because of your actions, now I have a problem with you, and I don't care if you've got a cute costume with a shiny ornament or not. So, I am not against law enforcement or police. I've told the cops many times, my son-in-law is a cop. I've had several of my friends, good friends, are cops. My uncle was a cop. Cops are here as a necessity because there's some people that are so stupid that they cannot show respect and get along with people in society. And those people don't deserve to be out here with respectful people. And it's the police's job to remove them from our society. Now, as far as all the extra laws that they come up with to generate income, I don't support them, and I don't think it's cool, and I don't agree with them. But, we have to do what we have to do as we can do it.
That's exactly true. I don't have anything against police officers in general at all. One of my sons is a police officer. He's a deputy sheriff over in Coryell County. Most police officers do their job, and they're good. I'll say that openly. Now, you have incidents like I'm working on articles now. The South Carolina incident where the man got shot in the back, and now I was directly against that. That was a stupid thing to do. I invoked the spirit of wide open in one of my articles and everything. And they all these liberals and mothers against everything but unprotected sex with a donkey. They all come out here and they rant and they rave and everything about guns and all this kind of stuff. But the simple fact of the matter is, they always say it'll be like the OK Corral. It'll be like the OK Corral. I wish it was like the OK Corral. Wyatt Earp, his brothers, and Doc Holliday did not shoot one innocent person. No little boys with a water gun got shot. No women got shot. No black people chewing tobacco at the drugstore steps got shot. Nothing. As a matter of fact, Ike Clanton ran toward Wyatt Earp and said, "I'm unarmed," and he said, "Then get the hell out of here," and pushed him aside. So I wish it was like the OK Corral, because Wyatt was just a lawman. He wasn't a peace officer, and he didn't have any training. He just knew what to do, and he did it. And that's what we got to boil down to. It's gotten ridiculous. You got there's two angles to that thing in South Carolina. I read another angle today, and I watched an extensive video. One was, like I said, first and foremost, he shot the man in the back as he retreated. Okay, now before that, he went 100 yards fighting with this guy, physically fighting. The guy apparently grabbed his taser, and they say now that the officer actually got tasered. And I use the F word here. I think there was a little bit of fuck it going on. At the end, he said, "The hell with this," and he shot. But he still shot the man in the back. Okay, it's simple. You don't do it. Casey wouldn't shoot nobody in the back. I wouldn't shoot anybody in the back. Nobody shoots anybody in the damn back. The man was running away. Come on. And what was he? He wasn't even charged with a crime. What was he guilty of? He ran? I mean, come on. You know, I begin to sympathize with black people after that. Good God, you can't run? I ran. Yeah, come on.
Well, I want to make 2 points. First, the name you mentioned, Wyatt Earp. A lot of people don't realize this and don't understand it. If you think that I'm inaccurate, please go check out what I'm telling you. Wyatt Earp was a convicted murderer. He was a pimp and a gambler before he was ever a policeman. He studied law in prison.
Yep.
And Casey, I'll tell you something else. A little known fact, I studied the coroner's report from Tucson. Wyatt, Doc, and his brothers were jailed for that incident until the coroner's court convened. They were actually jailed, went due course of the law, examined the whole incident before they were released. And by the way, they surrendered their weapons and submitted to the rule of law and walked into the jailhouse and ate beans until the coroner's report. That's the thing. But you're right. Wyatt was a wild son of a gun. He really was. But he carried a buntline special, which had, I think it was an 8-inch barrel. His trick was to pull that thing and hit people on their temple and knock them down. That was his main trick. They were trying to disarm the Clantons under a local city ordinance, and the Clantons and their associates chose to draw weapons instead. But you're absolutely right. He was a convicted felon. He was a pimp. He was a murderer and everything. But in the final analysis, he was a lawman. And if we had more lawmen and less police, I think we'd be better off.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
I agree.
That's the problem. We don't have people that care. It's just like the courts used to be courts of justice. Now they're called courts of law because it used to be about justice. Now it's about money. It's about getting paid for any crime that they can stick on you. It's about the money of the lawyer, the fine, anything that they can. It's all about money. It's not about justice.
That's exactly right. I had a district attorney tell me when I took my shotgun charge, and what happened was I was going on an eviction I had nothing to do with. I rode with a guy because he simply wanted me to ride. He had a sawed-off shotgun. It was behind the seat. The police got called because they had a fight. And I went up to the guy and said, "Look, we better unload that shotgun, dude, because when the police get here, they get all messed up over that. And you're so worried about it, you unload it." So I did, and I put the shell in my pocket. Well, there's a proof that I touched the gun. They measured the shotgun, and it had been literally sawed off. One portion of the barrel was 1/8 of an inch shorter than federal law, okay? I took the charge. I went to court. I met with the DA, and I told him the story. I said, "Now, that's the truth." And he told me something I never forgot. The truth has nothing to do with this building, and the sooner you accept that, the happier you're going to be.
That's a sad
right
fact.
there, telling you that you might as well get your cross set to eat some crow, because you're going to have it the way they say and not the way it should be.
Exactly.
Well, it's not about justice. It's not about justice. You know, just like the law that they're trying to charge me with, those laws were meant for people who were engaged in criminal activity. It was another nail in their coffin to get them. If they were involved in a commerce activity, moving drugs, moving contraband across state lines, and they were armed, this was another nail in the criminal's coffin to get them off the street. This law has no relevance or pertinence to come after somebody like me who was not engaged in any criminal activity at all of any sort. And the only tie that they're trying to use is because that gun was not made in Texas. They have even told me that if I would have had guns made in Texas, that these charges wouldn't have applied to me. So there you're telling me it's not of the possession of the gun. You're saying that because I got a gun from another state, that's a violation of the 14th Amendment and the Equal Protection Clause. Because just because the gun wasn't made here does not and should not make it illegal. If I was engaged in the illegal commerce of it, that's another story. But I wasn't.
Exactly
It's
right.
make you feel that way.
When you, that's the part that alarms me, is the way they split the hairs. They split the hairs and they come up with all these little things. I've learned from sitting in family courts. I have seen, and I myself have made a case against caseworkers with the CPS, direct cases proving they were a liar in front of the judge. I mean, proving it, showing conflicting documents, the whole 9 yards. And I've seen the caseworkers actually say, that all being said, Your Honor, we still have reason to believe, and the judge will decide for the caseworker every single time. And I think, Casey, that's what you're up against. You know, I got proof here. I got a video of this guy at a party laughing, saying you lied. Here it is. I've got an affidavit. Here's a sister-in-law saying he raped her when she was 12 years old, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. I'm a federal officer, and I have reason to believe. Okay, well, KC Massey is a crazed insurrectionist like David Koresh, and we still think he's a danger. So there it is. And I think that's what we're up against. That's why we can't lay our guns down. That's why we can't back away. That's why Casey's doing the right thing. They've got to know that there are some of us out here that just won't back up. We won't back up. We're not going to be a fool. We're not going to let them just walk on top of us. And like you said, that shiny little badge and all that loud screaming and hollering there, that's all very fine, but you're just a man, okay? You're just a man. And you don't have the authority.
Here's what's such a shame to me, Wilbur, is we're supposed to be from the great state of Texas, and Governor Abbott swore and promised in his election bid that he was going to do something about sealing the border and getting the corrupt government out of our state. But what has he done? Not a damn thing. Our Rick Perry's corrupt sorry ass, I'm glad he's under indictment. I hope he gets fried. But Rick Perry, Greg Abbott, the Attorney General at the time, who was Greg Abbott, and now the Attorney General, all of those have the authority to go to the federal government and say, look, dude, this is a states' rights issue. That gun was legally in the state of Texas. It belongs under Texas jurisdiction. You need to butt out and leave our citizen alone. He was compliant with Texas law. He had a gun at the place he lived. He was not in violation of our laws, and that gun does not belong to you. It belongs to the state of Texas jurisdiction. Get out of here and get off of Mr. Massey. Our state authorities have that authority, but yet they don't exercise it because just like all other politicians, they say what they want us to think that they mean. They say what we want to hear, Then once we elect them, they turn around and turn their backs on us. And that's the same thing that Greg Abbott's done. It's the same thing that Ken Paxton's done. It's the same thing that Perry did. They're all the same. They're corrupt, and they don't care about justice. They don't want to piss the feds off because they want the freebie money. But here's the thing. If we were to secede and keep our money, we wouldn't have to get money from feds because we send them more money than they give us back. So why don't we just keep our money and tell the feds to bite off?
Exactly. The figures are actually $40 billion a year hitting the White House, and they give us nickels on the dollar back. The agreements with the oil, with the OPEC, we take inferior crude from Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, they have to ship to Houston to refine because they're too stupid to do it themselves, okay? It doesn't go just there. I've heard stories on the West Coast from fishermen. They fish for whitefish. They load them on ships. They take them all the way to China. They offload them onto Chinese boats. They bring them all the way back, and they sell it to McDonald's. Avocados. I got sick on avocados in California. We went down to Ralph's, and we bought avocados. We made a salad. I thought I was about to have a baby, okay? Across the street from the Ralph's is Pablo the Mexican selling local avocados from the trees in California, but he can't sell them in Ralph's because there's a federal law. They have to buy them from Mexico and sell those avocados. It goes just across the board all the way down.
Isn't that ridiculous? That's our federal government and their intervention into our lives. It's costing us so much money and hassle.
And there again,
the Sergeant at Arms could have got Obama out a long time ago because I called him out. Nothing was ever done.
Yeah, but one of the problems is he's just a front man. Obama's not really that's why we have three branches of government.
Pimp on somebody's ass.
Yeah.
Oh.
I agree.
An inch is a problem compared to the miles.
Yeah, but the problem is our Congress and our Supreme Court system are supposed to be the check safes to stop a rampant president from going out of control. So they're complicit because they're helping him. They're allowing him to continue on his agenda. They have the purse strings. They could stop it, but they don't. They're just as guilty as Obama is. It's not just Obama. It's the entire government.
It's all of them.
Yep. And the same goes for here in Texas. You know, our Texas legislators have turned their back on Texan citizens who we have stated numerous times very loudly, we want constitutional open carry, but yet they say that they're not going to do that they're going to give us licensed open carry.
Now, we're right across the border from there, and we don't have constitutional carry or nothing. We have, if you want to carry the garbage into carrying, you have to have a damn permit to do it. And that's all that crap. Money's talking again.
Yep, that's what it is.
There ain't much you can do about it. All you can do is sit back and hope for the best.
Yeah. Casey, I got a question to ask you. You brought up something a while ago that got my attention. I've had a man that's wanted me to expatriate and renounce my American citizenship and all this kind of stuff. And I heard you say if you do that immediately, then you're in violation of that 922 on your guns. So I'm really thinking about that. Explain that to me.
According to 922, if you renounce your citizenship, you are not able to own or possess any firearms. Which is, it's there again, it still falls under the to ship or receive, to be engaged in or obstruct, or to have a firearm which has come through commerce. It's still the last part of it is still the same as mine, but instead of being convicted of a crime with a punishment exceeding 1 year, it is unlawful to have renounced your citizenship to be engaged in. It's the same thing as what they're charging me. The only difference is instead of having a punishment or a crime with a punishment exceeding 1 year, it's simply because you've renounced your citizenship, they can file the same charges against you that all tie back to commerce. And that's the kicker. It's a Commerce Clause provision. The Commerce Clause was a power granted to the government in the Constitution, but they are trying to expand it and take it into a realm that our founders never intended. And until we stand up and tell them we're not going to stand for this, they are going to continue to encroach on our rights.
And that's a fact that you can see that's happening everywhere in the United States today.
They're trying to get them all away from us.
The BLM is on a land grab across the Midwest right now. They're overstepping their authority everywhere, and they're acknowledging, no, we don't have the authority to do this, but we're going to do it anyway.
Well, that's just like in the video on, if you go to YouTube, and I'll put that out real quick, it's youtube.com/ I believe it's KC. All you have to do is go to YouTube and search KC Nunya, Noneya. And on there, James and I, James was the videographer of the video. It's called BP Jam Up. And in that video, you very clearly hear me tell the Border Patrol, you do not have authority to be questioning me or asking me or enforcing any Texas laws. And he admits that he does not have that authority, but then he again tries to order me to comply with his orders. And I told him, you don't have the authority to make me comply with anything. It's not about complying. I don't have to comply with you. You are not in a position of authority over me. Well, I know that, but you've got to comply. No, I don't. And no, I won't. And that is on video in case anybody doubts that I have stood up to the feds. And that's another reason why they're coming after me so hard, is because they don't like people that will stand up. They want everybody to bow down. But I got news for them. I'm not going to bow down. They're not going to push me around. And if they do not adhere to law and they do not adhere to the righteousness of the court and what the law says, states, and means, then we're going to have a whole new issue that's going to be, it's going to make more news than this story did if they don't comply with the law. I'm not going to keep playing their game and allow them to victimize me repeatedly. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to come to that, KC.
No, I don't either. Casey, I think that your case is going to go, your story is going to go national. What we as Texans have to recognize, and I've said this before, and said it again, we're a lot of fun to make fun of. Okay, we got funny hats and we talk funny. We all have accents, all this kind of stuff. But I told a gentleman yesterday in Washington State, he said we were designated as a hostile state, blah, blah, blah. I said, look, dude, look at this. We're not fighting just for us. We're fighting for you, okay? When they come after your kids, your wife, your money, your house, you're going to stop praying to the Lord, and you're going to start looking south and hoping to God we're there. And we'll be there. We'll be there. Because somebody's got to stand up. All we're doing in Texas is trying to use the Constitution. I mean, the Americans aren't using it right now, so we might as well use it for them. You know, they've lost it. You know, yeah. They're not doing anything with it, so hell, you know, here we are. That's all we're doing. You wrote it. You wrote it in Philadelphia. You came up with this idea. You wrote a beautiful document that works and everything. And now you're saying, well, it doesn't mean that. I think one of the most beautiful things in the world is the Second Amendment is one sentence. One. If we do secede, we need to rewrite that amendment and make it real simple. Y'all can have guns. Because apparently the Yankees don't understand simple English. The people have a right to have guns. The people comprise the militia. Therefore, they have guns. And you can't take their guns away from them, because to defend your borders and defend your country, you got to have guns. It's so simple. And you people have totally missed it. I read an article by C.J. Grisham today. He met with a congresswoman, and he put the supposition to her, if someone came in her husband's business and put a gun to his head and a CHL holder saved his life, what would she think? She said, I don't want guns in anybody's hands. The law will take care of everything. Okay, baby, that's really cute. The law will take care. You know what? When I saw all those bodies going in that Mickey's Ice Truck way back in the 90s, I'm sure that those people were confident in the law, while George Hennard walked from table to table to table and shot women in the head because he couldn't get laid. Okay, honey, that's the way it really works in the real world. I wrote an article on this yesterday for CJ, put it on the site, and I said, you know, when you cite statistics, it's more going to happen if you have a gun, you'll shoot a family member. Okay, well, when some 200-pound meth head kicks in your front door, and your 15-year-old daughter, who is the captain of the cheerleader team at the high school, is sitting there in her jammies watching TV, I can give you another statistics. I can tell you 100% of the time what's going to happen. Okay? That's the truth. That's the fact. Welcome to the good ship reality.
I agree. Hey, you guys, hold on. I got some more people with their hand up. We're in overtime. I'm running a little late.
I'm going to go in listening mode, KC. I'm still here.
Okay. I'm going to pull on 9422 real quick. 9422. Hello? 9422. You're on live.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm sorry, Casey, this is Terry. Hello, Wilbur. Is Wilbur still there?
I think Wilbur just...
okay,
he just dropped offline. Go ahead, Terry.
Well, you know, I'm wishing you well, praying for you, brother. Thomas Mick has this plan of action, and I think part of it was, if I recall correctly, everybody strap on their weapons. Every citizen of the United States put on their guns. What are they going to do? Smack our hands, spank us?
Well, it's coming to the point. It's coming to the point where that's what they're leading us into. They're not giving us a choice. You know, last month alone, the police in the United States killed over 100 American citizens. That's more people than have died at the hands of the police in England in 100 years. And that was just 1 month. These police and tyrannical government agents have lost their freaking mind. They think that they are our controllers and our dictators. They work for us. We do not work for them. We are not their servants. They need to understand they serve us.
Right. Well, I think we're going to have to stop saying they work for us, because they don't. They simply refuse to hear anything we have to say. They will not adhere to any petitions, any grievances, any marches, nothing. They don't care what we have to say. Nothing. People, you got to stand your ground. You let the Constitution be your guide on your Second Amendment rights. It's time people stood up and really, literally form teams and fight. We have no choice. That shot has been fired long ago. We're way past the time of, well, I think we ought to stand up. We need to stand up, each and every individual. It's over the top. The tyranny is blatant, in your face. What are you going to do about it, punk? I'll take your kids from you. The chill services, we'll take your kids from you. They got to stay in business. They got to pay their mortgages, so they're going to keep creating chaos in every fashion they can so they can keep their funds coming in. We are an overthrown nation. There's a coup d'etat that is complete. This Jade Helm shit that's going down out here, I'm just in awe of the American people going, oh, well, that's just exercise. That's just military. We do this all the time. GI actually came online a couple of days ago. We do this all the time. You're a bunch of conspiracy nuts. A GI said that. That there is scary because that mentality, that indoctrination that has come to a head is really scary, in my opinion. I think it's time for excuse me, for these people to stand up that realize what's going on. Becky Williams,
I agree.
One of my favorite patriots. She's going, we're at war. She constantly says we're at war. I say it too. A 4-star general under the old man Bush regime, the older bastard, patriot, my ass, traitor, said, a general said under his regime, said, the last big obstacle to bringing in the New World Order upon the United States is the white Christian male, for he will not surrender or compromise. That tends to put forth that they got the blacks under control or the Native Americans under control, and the whitey is the only one left. I mean, people are going to have to wake up. We are in trouble. We are at war. Strap on your gun. Stand the hell up. I don't want to get vulgar here using the F-bomb and all that on your show. I'm pissed, and I'm not alone. You're pissed. Wilbur. Everybody's pissed off. And I don't know what we're going to do. It baffles my mind, KC, why people don't stand up, why we are not taking it to them. These crooked judges, attorneys, or lawyers, I think there's a difference. Why people aren't standing up? They're snatching their asses up. Back in the day, what did they do? We didn't have law enforcement.
That's exactly what they did. No, you're right, and I believe what you're saying is 100% correct. I stand 100%, and so does James, beside what you're saying. But one of the problems that we're facing is on Facebook especially, we've got all these keyboard commandos. We've got all these fat slobs that they want to be military, want to be tough guys. And they get their aggression out by talking smack on Facebook. And I think we are looking in the wrong place if we're trying to assemble teams of men through Facebook. Now, there is some of us that are solid and real that are on Facebook, but there's a lot more that are all mouth and no action.
Exactly.
Well, I think we're going to get a surprise. I think that Jade Helm is getting kicked off early. I think the whole card got pulled on that, and now they're just saying, well, what the fuck, let's get on after it. Apparently there's been some stuff at Yuma, at a Yuma rest stop, and that it's already up on the net now, and some other things that are coming out. So if it is just a military exercise, yahoo. If it ain't, well, you might as well be prepared either way.
We used to have a thing called posse comitatus, and that meant that the military could not train on our soil, that they could only train on military bases and on other soil other than the American soil. But thanks to Bush, little Bush, and this dirtbag Obama and the sorry-ass Congress that have allowed the NDAA to go through, now we have no posse comitatus, and they're able to do this on our own soil and threaten us. And part of what Jade Helm is, part of their exercise, and I've heard it directly from the people that went to the cities and pumped this, is they are working on covert methods to move around amongst the American populace undetected so that they can figure out strategic ways to infiltrate and take over areas. So what they're doing is setting themselves up to take over this country, and we're sitting back allowing this and not doing anything about it. We are the fools.
Well, it's just like coming up in the ghetto. You know, Joe walked up to me and says, "Hey, Terry, Wayne's going to come over here. He said he's going to kick your ass." Oh, really? Well, first thing I do is I go find Wayne, and I dust his clock. That's what needs to happen right here, right now.
Yep. I agree with you. And that's the way I was raised. You know, if you threaten me, I'm going to come find you. You don't have to worry about bluffing because you're not going to bluff no more because we're going to fight each other, and either you're going to beat me up or I'm going to beat you up. But somebody's fixing to carry an ass whooping.
Yeah. I have a prayer meeting here tonight. Yeah. I'm just astounded. I like all of us, we stay frustrated and angry. And I don't know if this Oregon thing is a distraction, KC, or not. It could be. I don't know. But, you know, like I'm in the state of Tennessee. Love these people down here.
Something
but I'm not going to
about
Oregon.
that state of Oregon thing is that they've got somebody that we we carry a fondness for. We call him O'Shaughnessy. And if he's got anything to do with anything up there, then I'd pretty much say it's fucked up, or it's in the process of being fucked up if it was a righteous move to begin with.
Well, I think personally, my personal opinion is that it is some sort of distraction, because if they can get us focused and going up there into that corner of the United States, we're leaving our home fronts open. We're leaving the rest of the country wide open. And then they mark us again just like they did at Bundy, just like they did at the border. All of us that get involved and go, we are going to be marked and further persecuted. So I personally, while I understand the people of Oregon should be able to defend their own citizens, there should not be a nationwide call, in my opinion, and the people from all across the nation go there. If they don't have enough men in Oregon or in the surrounding states, then that's their problem.
It reminds me of a Bible scripture. It says, you know, if someone says, "My Lord is here, my Lord is here," don't go running over there. If he says he's over there, he's over there. Don't go running over there. When he's back, you'll know it. You'll see him. And I think that's the same thing that we ought to, that we should put that same temperance on this. Not go running over there because they're going to do something over there, or go running over there because they're going to do something over there. You'll know it when it hits. They'll go running anywhere.
Very good. Fellas, I appreciate everybody's participation tonight in the show. We ran over 45 minutes, so I'm going to have to cut it off, but that's okay. I've had a great show with you guys. I appreciate everybody's input. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Terry. Thanks, everybody. You know, James, Wilbur, everybody else that's called in and been a part of the show, everybody that's listening, everybody that's following us on the web. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you. And God bless America. And let's restore our republic. Let's come back together as good, God-fearing Christian people and restore our Constitution and our republic. And the only way we're going to do that is put our faith back in God and let God lead us, because he will not lead us into a bad situation.
And he will. But
I appreciate you guys, and thanks for everything. Thanks for all the support. I love you guys, and I appreciate it. And until next Tuesday, have a great one, people. Love y'all. And I'm going to take us out with little country music. It's, where'd it go? My Pissed Off Rednecks.
Boy, that one hits the home.
Yeah, well,
arm up, stay strong.
Yeah, some reason oh no, there it is. All right, here it is, guys. We're gonna take it out with Pissed Off Rednecks. God bless.
The hallmark of Jimmy Johnson's championships has been
stick-haired politician. I've got some news for you. If you wanna come try to take my gun, son, you better be bulletproof. Don't try to tell my children when and where to pray. No, we ain't that far gone. We're still standing on land of the free and the home of the brave.